Our parsha begins with a great deal of suspense. Last week's parsha ended in a cliffhanger. The goblet of Yosef is found in Binyamin's belongings. The brothers come back to Yosef and they don't know what to say. They can't believe what is happening to them. Yosef responds and says, "Go to your father, Binyamin will remain a slave." The brothers realize that the deal they made with their father, there is just no way that they can return home without Binyamin. So Yehuda approaches Yosef and he says to Yosef, "What?" He tells him the same thing that the brothers had told Yosef earlier. Not one thing different did Yehuda say to Yosef. And so we really need to ask ourselves, what was Yehuda thinking? He's approaching Yosef and he's saying the very same thing that they've said previously. The response to what they had said previously was, "You're all spies. We don't believe you for a minute." Why would Yehuda think that now there would be any difference? If anything, with this suspicious behavior, one would think that if they just said the same thing again, all the same problems would just continue. What was Yehuda thinking? So the Maggid Revelvala explains as follows. Until this point, every time the brothers spoke to Yosef, there was an interpreter who was present. The brothers would speak. The interpreter would then interpret the brothers' words and say it to Yosef. Yosef would speak, and the interpreter would repeat Yosef's words to the brothers. Now, the pasuk says, Vayigash elav Yehuda. Yes, Yehuda told the same story, but he felt, you know what? Perhaps the first time when we said it, and the response was that we were spies, perhaps that was because the man in the middle, the interpreter, was not clear enough or did not understand well enough to be able to tell Yosef what we were really saying, to explain to him how sincere we were. So Yehuda tries a new approach. His new approach is direct negotiation. How many times have we seen situations in which there were strikes, and throughout the press there are words that are being thrown back and forth between the union and the corporation until we're told now there are going to be direct negotiations. And when you hear that there are going to be direct negotiations, that's the beginning to the end of the strike. Why? Because when people are able to sit face to face, they're able to communicate effectively, and they're able to sense the sincerity of the other side. And that is true as well of our personal relationships. Sometimes we allow the middleman to try to make shalom between us and someone else, and that middleman is not as effective. Sometimes they are effective, but other times they're not as effective as it would be for us to directly speak to that individual. And I think that in our society, in our world, this message takes on another twist. And that is very often we communicate via email. But one thing that email is missing is the human interaction and the emotion. Now we can put a little smiley face or a little sad face to try to express how we're feeling. But words can be taken to mean different things once they are written down, as opposed to sitting face to face with someone we are in conflict with, even though it's difficult, or picking up the phone and solving a conflict that we have, even though it's difficult to make that phone call. That was the approach of Yehuda to Yosef, and even though he didn't say anything new, even though he didn't say anything that hadn't been said before, that approach of speaking directly with sincerity brought about Yosef revealing himself, and the rest, as they say, is history. May we be zocheh, may we merit to heed the advice of Yehuda and the lesson taught by Yehuda in making sure that we approach conflict in a sincere and direct way, and hopefully, therefore, be successful in all our endeavors and all our relationships. Thank you for listening, and have a good Shabbos.